Hi everyone and welcome to another episode of the Scene to Screen movie podcast. I'm AJ and this is my review of Lynne Ramsay's new film starring Joaquin Phoenix, You Were Never Really Here. I had no idea this film existed until I saw a poster for it on the tube just recently, so I feel like I'm probably a bit late with this review, but it just looked like something that I'd be interested in, so I decided to hunt it down at one of London's many screening rooms. I wasn't entirely sure what to expect, but I was pleasantly surprised by the result. You Were Never Really Here focuses on Joe, an emotionally stunted man who has been broken by the horrific things that he's witnessed. Ex-military and a former FBI agent, Joe provides a service as a hired gun, or shall I say hired hammer, in an effort to rescue girls caught up in human trafficking. He's tortured by his past, and throughout the film we get a number of flashbacks to some of the events that still linger on his soul. Without spoiling too much, Joe is hired by a New York senator to find his missing daughter Nina. He gives Joe an address that was sent to him by an anonymous informant and asks Joe to be brutal with whoever has taken Nina. This ends up spiraling out of control very quickly, and Joe is forced into action in sudden and extremely violent ways. The plot to You Were Never Really Here is pretty minimal. We're given the story beats as and when needed, fed just enough information to have a grasp on what is unfolding. Most of the appeal comes from the film form and performances on offer here, as well as the way that the simple story is spun. The sound design is intensely claustrophobic, using whispered voices and suffocating sound effects to build suspense even in moments of downtime. The way that the camera work and editing serve to portray events in the way that Joe himself is processing them is also an inspired touch, and it's a welcome change to be put in the shoes of a hero who is so often at the mercy of his own mind. It gives the film an almost nightmarish quality, and to the right audience that might be a huge selling point. Joaquin Phoenix is on fine form, sapping Joe of most of his outward emotions, but crucially not all of them. Joe's relationship with his mother is incredibly touching, and it is only with her that he shows any real connection to his emotions. Other than that, Joe stalks the streets with a dynamite ready to blow intensity, pain constantly bubbling under the surface of his ragged face. Joe is another descendant of the main character Jeff Costello from La Samurai, similar to the driver from Drive as well, a professional driven to extremes after the situation becomes dire. He also shares some notable similarities with Travis Bickle from Taxi Driver, one sequence in particular involving CCTV footage that sort of feels like a callback to a famous scene from Taxi Driver, whilst also being a brutally effective scene in its own right. What separates Joe from Bickle, however, is that Joe knows right from wrong. There is no clash of morals in his mind. He just does what he does because he has seen the cruelty of the world, and perhaps feels compelled to fight against that darkness in the only way he knows how. Of course, I have to mention Johnny Greenwood's score. I loved this score, even more than I loved his score for Phantom Thread, and that was phenomenal too. It's a weird fusion of styles and instruments, and the way that it sets the tone of the film and carries that tone throughout is nothing short of masterful. The way that the score and sound design work together too is something that this film does in a way that I can't really compare to anything else. Combine this with the borderline surreal use of editing as the film reaches its close. There's a short section towards the end that almost outright feels like straight horror, and you've got a film that is firing artistic brilliance round after round. It comes together so oppressively and hauntingly that it gives the already thrilling narrative that extra power that makes this film stand out in the increasingly tired man saving a girl subgenre. The funny thing about that actually is that this film almost feels like an art house Taken, and this shows that with a bit of flair and passion and less moments of complete disbelief, the narrative used in Taken can work in an engaging manner, as opposed to Taken itself, which is basically just a series of scenes of a man killing brown guys of increasing size and escaping from situations that he would literally not be able to escape from, even with suspension of disbelief applied. And the reason why You Never Really Hear works, I'd say, is down to a couple of things. First, it's because of the way that it carries itself as a film. Lynne Ramsay is clearly a very talented director, and she brings all of the elements of this film together in such a perfect way, every part of the production synchronizing perfectly to tell the story found in the script. Second, it's because the film brings compassion and empathy to its main characters, and gives them opportunities to show their capabilities in a way that makes sense for the story and their personalities. Joe has a moment by a lake that serves to define him as a man, not just as a fictional character, and Nina herself gets a moment near the end of the film that I found to be an incredibly satisfying reveal, one that showed an awareness for her character beyond her just being a victim. As much as I enjoyed this film and the way that it handled its themes, it's not quite a masterpiece in my opinion. In some ways, however, it's kind of hard to pinpoint why. I feel like that although the light narrative makes sense for the film that we got, it has also been cut to a lean 90 minutes. Whilst I certainly appreciate terseness in cinema, this is a film that I actually think could have benefited from maybe more setup or perhaps more complexity towards the end. It doesn't achieve the same heights as Drive, for example, which actually did more with even less. But again, it's kind of hard to exactly explain why. Perhaps just chalk it up to personal opinion and my own personal viewing experience. Tastes always differ in this way. Nonetheless, though, this is a film that I look forward to seeing again when it's released on DVD. Definitely one I'll be buying. And it's the kind of film that I like to see in cinemas. It's the work of a talented and complex director, one I'm glad to have on the scene at the moment. I'm feeling a light to decent 8 on this one personally. So what did you think of this film if you saw it? Hit us up on social media and let us know. Give us a follow too if you haven't already. It'd be proper appreciated like. And as ever, stay awesome and we will see you in the next episode.